survivors of sexual violence that need these services. It's really survivors of anything. We became one of the few, actually, centers in Pennsylvania that is a comprehensive victim service agency. So doesn't matter what type of crime it is, if you're the direct victim, if it's family member, friend, and you're feeling some of the effects of that, you can receive our services. They're confidential, they're offered at no cost, and I'll break down for you what each branch of our services looks like more thoroughly. But it's really to be there as a support and an advocate for somebody going through a traumatic event and trying to navigate what that process is going to look like. So looking at each one of those services, just to start out, like I said, not just the direct victim, anybody who's being impacted or affected by that. So if you think of something bad happening to you as a drop of water in a pool, that small drop is going to affect that entire pool of water. It's going to create the entire body of water to ripple out, and that something bad happening a lot of times affects a large community of people. So somebody's family members, their friends, their neighbors, their coworkers now feel off balance or maybe question things, feel unsafe themselves, can receive our services to kind of work through that a little bit. So, okay. Our counseling services is probably one of our biggest areas of service that we provide. Our main office is located in Allentown. We're like a block away from the PP&L Arena in Center City. But we do have a smaller satellite office in Easton for people that maybe that's closer, easier to get to, just more comfortable if you live in Bethlehem or Easton, aren't too familiar with the Allentown area. And you can come in and talk one-on-one with a professional counselor about what experience you've had, how you're feeling, how to really heal and grow through that experience and move forward. We also have support group style counseling, so that really varies. Really, what can we connect people on? What are people looking to connect on and wanting to share with others who have had similar experiences? So I'll show you on our website a little bit later some of the current groups that we have going right now and how to find more about that. Biggest area, again, with the counseling is our 24-hour hotline. So 24 hours a day, every single day of the year, whether it's after hours, weekend, holiday, that number, that line is there for somebody who has a question, has a concern, is experiencing a hard time, needs somebody to talk to, just to kind of hear them out, get some advice. We rely pretty heavily on our volunteers for that, just because we are a small staff and manning a phone 24 hours, a line to be available. We want to make sure there's no gaps in that. So we have kind of a 3-tiered system and train community volunteers pretty extensively to be able to help us cover that. Looking at some of our advocacy or victims' rights services, so in addition to our 2 main offices, we have an office, at least 1 space, if not 2 spaces, in both county courthouses. We have court advocates that work straight out of that office. They work pretty closely with the district attorney's office, with judges, lawyers, different personnel within the court system, and they're there every day to walk somebody through a hearing, if it does go through a hearing process, if somebody needs to get a protection order, they can help them, where do I go to file, how do I file, what does that even do for me, how long does it last, really answer the questions under that legal system. It does not have to be reported to police to receive our services, so if it happened 5 years ago or 5 hours ago, you've told everybody about it, you've never spoken a word about it, doesn't matter, you can come in and receive our services. The only time our staff is required to report something is in the case of child abuse, because much like education personnel or anybody, we are mandated reporters. But other than that, we really start with that person where they're at. So if it's something that eventually somebody wants to go down this road, we have advocates that can help them with it. sometimes that's how folks get acquainted with us, because they're in the courthouse, one of our advocates meets them and says, hey, I'm from Crime Victims Council, here's a little bit about us, I just wanted to let you know that we're here if you need us. And that's how they get connected, and then start with counseling services or any other aspect they might feel beneficial to them. This picture down here is something that we're pretty proud of. So it's not just in the court or legal system that we accompany survivors, especially regarding sexual violence. A lot of the survivors we meet is through the hospitals. So if a survivor presents at an emergency room at a hospital wanting a sexual assault exam, or discloses that they've been victimized in any kind of way, they will, in almost every single case, be asked if they would like a Crime Victims Council advocate to come out, given a really brief description of what that is. And we have folks on call, so our staff rotates being on call. We sign up for a day, and that person tries to stay close to the office, not fill their schedule too much that day, so that they can kind of drop everything and go meet somebody at a hospital. To, again, be there in a couple senses. So if somebody is really unsure, like, is this what I want to do? I don't know if I want to press charges, and is in that trauma state trying to decide and navigate this, we can support them and try to help give them the options, make sure that their rights are heard. The picture down here is our bags, which, excuse the Walmart labels, we try not to use Walmart bags anymore because it's a bit much, but that's what was donated. So the bags have clothes in them, personal hygiene items like a toothbrush, deodorant. We have these really awesome hand cloths that are like pre-wet and scented with great scents and soaps that you can just kind of freshen up and wash yourself up. We have like granola bars in them, and some of our brochures that if somebody does go to a hospital, if they come right after an assault and they want to freshen themselves up after the exam. Sometimes clothing has to be collected as evidence with sexual violence cases, so we have sweats and kind of comfy clothes. I've also had people that maybe they're not wearing clothes from the assault and they don't have to be collected, but they just want to get in some comfy sweatpants because they're at the hospital for a long time and they just want to feel comfortable.
An interesting story with that and how we started this program. We met a victim in the hospital and by herself, and she didn't have any clothes to change into. She had to go home in paper, which is, I think, an additional victimization of someone who's just gone through a traumatic event. And so that's how this program started, us collecting various sizes of sweatpants and sweatshirts because they are much more one size fits all, sort of. And so we vowed that no one would ever go home in paper again.
Yeah. And we had that survivor work in conjunction with us to kind of promote this, put it out in the community. And she even wrote a little note as a one survivor to another that goes into the bag, so when somebody takes the bag home or anything, they have that comforting piece as well from another survivor, just letting them know that you're not alone, you don't have to go through this alone. So it's definitely a nice comforting piece for sure. Crime victim compensation, I'm not going to go too in depth with because it's not my area by any means. We have one or two experts in the office that know victims compensation really well, but basically, if you've been victimized of a crime and have expenses because of that crime, so say somebody is physically assaulted and they have like jaw damage or dental damage, that creates these high-end medical bills, victims compensation can help reimburse for some of those medical bills. Couple exception caveat pieces, unlike our services, to get victims compensation, it has to be reported to police. And it has to be reported to police and then filed for compensation in a certain time frame. So it's a little bit more rigid, but we definitely help people apply for victims compensation and try to do what we can to help alleviate that burden a little bit. The other piece of this, you can't be engaged in illegal activity at the time of the crime. So if it's something of like a drug deal that you're voluntarily engaging in and it gets out of hand for some reason, victims compensation isn't going to be the most helpful in that regard, just because it's a limited fund. They try to get to the most serious situations first, and that's just, again, how they look at it, how they define it.
An additional note for that, the exception to that is, I don't know if you're going to go into the rape exam.
Yep.
You do not have to report your crime or prosecute in order for a rape exam to be covered. That's the exception to that rule. Victims of sexual assault who go to the hospital for a rape exam, there is no requirement to report to police or anything like that. That's automatically covered by victim compensation. That's seen as being a collection of evidence, actually,
Yeah.
when the rape exam is being done. And the crime, you have to pay to have your evidence collected. So that's a difference there.
And victims compensation will cover those medical bills or things. Unfortunately, if your car gets stolen or your stereo gets stolen, victims compensation isn't going to buy you a new stereo or deliver a new car deal. Again, that's just kind of obvious answers, facts of reality. It'd be a much better world if there was just a surplus of these things that people could be giving out. But unfortunately, it's going to try to ease the process and the burden of some of the expenses, but isn't going to replace personal items or property damage, really. So, diving more into my area specifically, another branch of our services, in addition to the counseling, the advocacy, is prevention and community outreach. So, I spend my days with a couple of my coworkers going around to different groups, different schools, different programs, employment settings, anything, having conversations like this, doing different programming events, tabling at awareness events. So you can kind of see our programs go pre-K through senior citizens. So we cover a lot of topics. With elementary school, it tends to be more kind of basics, boundaries, feelings, peer interactions, friendships, bullying. Middle school, it's a lot of cyberbullying, sexual harassment, social media stuff that they get in over their heads with pretty quickly. And then high school and college, definitely more of the sexual violence, dating violence 101, bystander intervention, and changing the norms of our culture or how we view some of these crimes and interact on the daily. And then we do a lot of professional trainings. So myself and my supervisor are certified to give mandated reporter trainings that count for education, continuing education for like teachers, nurses, and qualify under those mandates. And then we do a lot of tabling, like I said. Last night I was at Lehigh University for a speaker. Tonight I'm actually going up to Lafayette. I've been here for It's On Us weeks and different events that you all have hosted. And we're also in charge of fundraising or community outreach. So Sexual Assault Awareness Month, April is one of our biggest awareness months because, again, that's our main area. So the last 2 years we've had the PP&L Tower light up April, which is awesome because it's a staple in Allentown. It's visible from far away. We've also had local police departments, several of the police departments, put End Sexual Violence teal ribbon magnets on their cars for April. Some of the departments forgot at the end of April that they were on the cars, and we were totally fine with that, so they still have them on there. Others bring them out every April, which is also fine. You can see some pictures, again, different tabling, awareness type stuff that we do, going out to that we do on a regular basis. The first one, to be honest, surprised me 3 years ago when I started at CVC. I was kind of baffled and never heard of anything like it, but it's one of the coolest things I've ever done. So, the Rally Through the Valley occurs every September. This past September was our 18th annual rally event, and it's our biggest fundraiser, I would say. It's actually a 60-mile poker motorcycle ride from Nazareth Borough Park down to Emmaus Community Park. Ends at Emmaus Community Park with a pig roast. We have a live band, all kinds of raffle baskets. We go around asking community groups, businesses to donate gift cards and different prizes, and then have all these raffle baskets that we set up. And it's just a cool event. Like, this picture's from this year, was our first year with dog riders. This was Lady, she rode sidecar the entire way. I have no idea how they have her trained to do that. She was great. This is some of our staff with, every year we have t-shirts, and so every year you can buy previous years, or we have riders that will come with their vest or something on them that has like all 18 pins, and you can tell they've ridden every single year. They're extremely reliable, I'd say. But it's a cool event, and it's something different that is big in the motorcycle community, but also draws a lot of attention, I'd say. And then we also have 2 annual plant sales. So we have one every winter, which tends to focus more on quote-unquote Christmas plants, for lack of a better way of describing it. The poinsettias, we have wreaths with pine cones, and a couple varying sizes that people are going to buy around that time anyway. So if you can buy it and have it go to a good cause at the same time, hey, that's awesome. And I'll kind of explain the process, but the spring plant sale is more of the spring plants, so tulips, hydrangeas, Gerber daisies, hyacinths, and how it works, we work with a grower. There is a local church that has been wonderful in donating a large amount of space to us, and we sort through these plants that the grower delivers. Our staff goes there and we sort through them into the different orders, and then our staff, for the most part, are plant delivery people for the day, and we'll drive out to these local businesses. Again, it's usually businesses or agencies, I'd say, where like the staff will buy, and we'll deliver the plants for them, so they just have to order, and then, hey, they arrive on this day. We've even had a couple, I'd say, local residents that have done a small order and will deliver to households. There's been once or twice where I've just knocked on a door and said, hey, I have your plants. But again, it's something that people do around this time of year anyway, and if it can go to a good cause, well, yeah, that's just a double win. The other point where we kind of become florists for a little bit, every year we have some of the local campuses allow us to sell roses at graduation. So again, we have a grower, a rose saleswoman that we work with that delivers roses in bulk to our office. We make it very cold in our conference room because they thrive best in cold settings, roses, and keep them from opening up too early. I think one of the prep days this year we had like 4,000 roses delivered of varying colors, and we trim them, we bundle them into a pretty looking dozen, and then we have a wrapping system and everything, so they get wrapped with cellophane, which you can kind of see in the pictures, and then every school gets their coordinated colors ribbons tied. So Cedar Crest will get a thick yellow ribbon with a white overlay. Lehigh will get a thick brown ribbon with a white overlay, but those are their colors. So, and we try to make them look nice. We have cards that if parents or loved ones, family do order, they can submit a personalized message that we type up onto the little cards that you get at a regular florist. So then we're stationed at the front gates of graduation, and as people come in, they stop, they give their name, we We give them the flowers on the card, and boom, it's taken care of. It's already paid most of the time online. We do sell that day, so if you have somebody, which we do occasionally have the panicked family member or anything that was running late and needs to buy that day, hey, great, we're there, we can help you out, and we have extra cards that you can sign and slip it in, and nobody ever has to know. Again, it's nice because it's something that people are doing anyway. It's one less stop on a busy day, and it's going to a good cause. So, great, I don't have to stop anywhere. I know that it's going to a good cause. I can pick any color that I want on this array, assortments that are there. So we've been really beneficial to continue to do that, and have people be pretty responsive to that. And then in April, part of Sexual Assault Awareness Month, there is a week in April that is National Crime Victims' Rights Week. And usually during that week, it's usually fairly early in April, but it varies. We have our annual Victims' Rights Vigil. So actually over near Cedar Crest College, on Cedar Crest Boulevard in Allentown, we have a plot of land that is known as Memorial Tree Grove, where trees have been planted in honor of loved ones lost. And I think about a year or two ago, we ran out of room for trees, which seems silly, but it's possible. So now we have a walkway that is paved up to a pavilion, and people can get a paver dedicated to a loved one engraved or anything. And it's a really nice plot of land that, again, in April, we hold a vigil where we have speakers come out. We have a candlelit vigil portion in memory and honor of loved ones. This is our memorial quilt. So this was made before a very long time ago. Again, in honor of loved ones lost, specifically from homicide. We've talked about doing another one, and I think our counseling department would like to do another newer one to have displayed, but it's in the works. Also at this vigil every year, we recognize 3 community members who it's not in their job description maybe or in their daily role to advocate for victims or be a supportive source, but they've gone above and beyond and have really collaborated with our agency, have gotten people connected, helped sponsor us or get the word out. So it's a nice uplifting moment in a more heavy event sometimes, that there are people outside of our office and that don't have to do this work that are really trying to change